Chris, how are you?
I am living the dream, Anthony Franco. Happy Monday to you. How are you? You look terrific.
I feel fabulous.
Yeah, really?
Yeah.
Fabulous.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I can tell you for sure. I feel fabulous.
Well, you look fabulous, Anthony. I mean, I think that we can just agree that we are fabulous today.
Do you fabulous.
Fabulous.
You have a dad joke for us this morning?
I'm going to wait and sprinkle it in along the way.
You're going to sprinkle it in? All right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, today I'm really excited because we're going to be talking about something that actually really I figured out has really mattered. And I didn't figure that out in my first couple companies, but it really has mattered. We're going to talk about benefits and how not to treat benefits as just a cost, but how you can actually how employee benefits can actually benefit your company too. So I'm looking forward to that. Let me go ahead and open it. What if the advisor you trust to cut benefit costs profits when your spending goes up? Those brokers, Chris.
Brokers.
Shocking stat. According to Validation Institute's 2024 Benefits Transparency Report, mid-sized companies waste an average of $1,800 per employee annual on hidden broker fees. If you're like us and you have 2 employees, that's a lot of money every year. Kara at Abundant Health discovered her broker was collecting $400K yearly in undisclosed fees on her 200-person plan. She thought he was her ally, not her expense. Today on How to Founder, we're going to be talking about using employee benefits to your company's benefit. I am your host, Anthony Franco, and with me today is my wonderful co-host.
Why do you sound sarcastic when you said that? I don't know. Seems strange.
It comes out naturally. I don't mean to sound. I'm going to try to say that again without sarcasm.
All right, okay.
Wonderful co-host.
No,
I can't do it. I can't do it.
Absolutely.
All right. And joining us today is Donovan Pyle. He is a health insurance whistleblower, CEO of Health Compass Consulting, and author of Fixing Healthcare. He exposes the $300 billion brokerage blind spot and helps mid-sized businesses to reclaim wasted benefit dollars through fiduciary-based consulting. Donovan, welcome to the show.
Great to be here, Anthony. Nice to see you all.
Donovan, it's great to have you. This is one of those conversations where it's perfect for us to have because this is not something that a founder is naturally good at. You don't come into this world without being a founder and be like, oh, you know what I'm an expert at? Employee benefits. This is, I got it nailed. So first question, we kind of get this wrong a lot of the times, and it sounds like it can be a little nefarious, right? It sounds like we're being overcharged in some of these cases for this idea of a broker. Tell us what we get wrong as founders as we start this process.
Okay, well, yeah. So first of all, let's just level set for your audience. U.S. businesses cover 164 million Americans with healthcare benefits each year. Last year, they spent about $1.3 trillion on healthcare. But here's the thing, about 25% of that was complete waste. That's $325 billion last year, or roughly $4,000 per employee that was completely wasted. And there are very good reasons for that. There's a lot of landmines out here in this industry. And if you don't know where they are, you might just step in one, and that's going to cost you a lot of money.
Anthony, this is literally, I've been running companies a long time. This is the first time I've heard of this. Did you know that we've been and I've used brokers in the past. Did you know this was a thing?
I found out too late. And Donovan, when you said employee wasted, I thought you were talking about wasted employees. So
which is what
I to cognitively
right.
reset on what you said.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a shocking number. Are you gonna? Yeah, I won't ask that question because it's political. Keep going, Chris.
Well, so I mean, all right. So clearly here there's a gap, and clearly it's as particularly as startups, we didn't know that this was a thing. We didn't know the fact that we could be overcharged up to 25%. And again, that's a huge number. And you think about it as from our line item expenses, employee benefits is a huge part. Like it's gigantic. It's a lot of our line items, right? So
Yeah.
we need to first now be understanding, but just give us the lay of the land here. We go through these brokers, people contact us. We don't know what we're doing. How does this come about?
Sure. Yeah. It's really good to understand the buying process and really the history of how these industries came to be. So, my book, Fixing Healthcare, How Executives Can Save Their People, Their Business,
Well done.
and the Economy.
Great placement. I just
I
will
mean,
say, as a
like-
podcast host,
Right there.
perfectly
Front and center.
executed plug.
Exactly.
Well
You have
done.
been media trained, Donovan.
Thanks for coming out. So available on all the channels.
On all channels, exactly. Amazon. Yeah.
Yes.
Here you go. There you go.
Yeah.
So, take a step back though, and think about why do we offer benefits in the first place? I mean, as you said, Chris, it's typically a top 3 expense. It's typically the fastest growing financial risk on corporate P&Ls. So what is the intentionality behind offering benefits? Well, if you drill down on employers, they'll tell you, well, we offer benefits because we want to keep our employees healthy and we want to help attract and retain talent. So this speaks to the original intent of why employers got mixed up with benefits in the first place, right? So I had to do a deep dive and dedicate an entire chapter to the history of this industry so that we understand who these players are, what their role is, what their financial incentives are, and why we use them in the first place if we even have to, which we'll talk about later. So just real quick, you might find this interesting because you got a bunch of business-minded people here, but most people.
That was an incredible compliment. Thank you. That is maybe the nicest thing anybody's ever said to us on the show, Donovan. Thank you.
People forget that health insurance has only been around for about 90 years. Okay, back in the year 1900, people spent more money on cosmetics than they spent on healthcare. There was no such thing as insurance because you didn't need it. But as hospitals be able to cure patients, that was like a new concept coming to the fore in the 1920s. We could actually cure people. Their cost basis started to go up, right? They were training doctors. They were sterilizing hospitals. And so what happened was that, and this was exacerbated through the Great Depression, their patients couldn't afford their services, right? So they're left holding the bag. And so Baylor University Hospital in Dallas, Texas had an idea. What if we partnered with an employer and had that employer prepay for our hospital services? What if we did that? And so they struck a deal with the Dallas Teachers Union. And for 50 cents per employee per month, those Dallas teachers could go to Baylor University Hospital and have their babies in this nice, clean hospital. That became the first Blue Cross plan, the first health insurance plan in the United States.
That's wild. Also, it's maybe the greatest thing as a Texan, Donovan. It's maybe the greatest thing to ever come out of Texas.
Well, there are some unintended consequences.
Health insurance?
I don't know. I was gonna say I couldn't tell whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. I was trying to make the Texas joke, and
You gotta have some pride, but here's the deal. So throughout the 1930s, other executives at other hospitals across the country said, "Wow, this is really interesting." And this program was hugely successful because it helped stabilize revenues for these hospitals who were struggling. And so they said, well, how can we develop our own health plans where we live, right? And so they actually put up the seed money. They actually invested in creating health insurance companies in the 1930s. And by 1940, there were 14 different Blue Cross plans throughout the country.
That's wild. It's funny. I had no idea, and this is, again, the cool stuff we learn, Anthony's like, I had no idea sort of the role that employers played in this entire journey. Like it's an interesting component, right? So I want to keep kind of the conversation around healthcare and sort of benefits as as a theory. And Anthony, I want to give it to you. And if you've got another place you want to take it, just let me know. But as a founder, benefits are this weird thing. They feel like this big kind of scary expense. We know we have to offer health benefits to some capacity, but did you ever get over this barrier? And how do you think about benefits now as you're thinking about onboarding employees as far as leverage goes, is creating and keeping or recruiting and keeping high potential employees?
Well, I think I'm going to take the weak way out and say it depends. It depends on the stage of your company and the type of employees you're trying to attract.
100%.
So for a startup, you know this, Chris, startups just simply can't afford employee benefits. So startup, one of the problems with the healthcare system is that if you're an entrepreneur, we talk about this all the time, Chris, if you're an entrepreneur, not only do you have to leave your paycheck, but maybe more scary is you have to leave your benefits behind. And so benefits,
that's by design.
Of course it is. So maybe that is when you're a later stage company, that's how you should think about benefits, is paying for your employees to leave, I guess. But it is a real problem, and I don't think the ACA has really helped us that much because it's so expensive and such bad coverage that it really isn't an option if you're married with kids and you're the only one with the benefits. But as you start to grow, you start to, not only does your company mature and your team mature, but your desire to attract employees that are accustomed to good benefits, benefits now for you become like table stakes. It's not even that your benefits need to be better than they need to be pretty good just to keep up with the employees you're trying to attract. Donovan, I'm sure that's kind of what you see as well, right?
Yeah, absolutely. You absolutely want to be intentional around why you're offering. If you're gonna make this huge investment, be intentional about what is success, right? I mean, well, let's think about this. If you're in a really competitive labor market and a really competitive industry, if you're a tech company, you're trying to steal talent from Google. You bet you don't have a chance if you don't have benefits, right? I mean, it's just not going to happen. So it really, you want to think about this and think about what is the cost of turnover at your company, right? I mean, this is a key metric. If you don't know the cost of turnover, then you really don't know how much to invest. It's like knowing what the lifetime value of a customer is, right? Whereas okay, if I don't know that, how do I know how much money I can invest towards getting that customer? So it's the same thing with employees. And so you really want to be intentional around that. So I would say, yes, some industries, I tell people small businesses in certain industries, I tell them don't offer benefits, right? I mean, it's not worth it. It doesn't make sense. But here's, people think that the ACA, which let's just clarify what we're talking about here. The ACA did a bunch of different things, but most of the coverage around the ACA is on the individual marketplace, right? So 5% of our population is in the individual marketplace. They buy individual health plans. And so the ACA is one way to do that. There are lots of ways to buy healthcare benefits. The ACA is one way to do it. It's a very popular way to do it. The government subsidizes it for lower income people.
Until next year, yes.
We'll see based on the agreement that comes out today. Right?
Who knows? But here you might find this interesting. I mean, I started my company in 2018. I stopped buying health insurance in 2019.
I mean, it seems counterintuitive, right?
I don't buy it. So
are you completely self-pay?
It's not completely, but mostly self-pay. So what I do, and by the way, being a cash pay patient is amazing for a bunch of different reasons. Okay. First of all, I'll tell you a quick story. I got an MRI done 2 weeks ago. I went on a few different platforms where you can actually see pricing. I paid $400 for this MRI, and we've got employees all over Central Florida who are spending at least $4,000 for the same exact MRI. Okay, this is happening 1,000 times a day all over the country, but they call it price variance, right? And in Central Florida, healthcare prices vary over 1,100%. I mean, I get an opportunity.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, feeling like we should start an MRI company in Central Florida at the moment.
Right, exactly. Right. So what I do, and I'm not endorsing this, I'm not saying other people should do this, but the right decision for me and my family, starting from 2019, was to join a health sharing organization. No, that doesn't mean I'm Amish. There are secular health sharing organizations, and I chose one that was what's called Sedera. Yeah, they started off as the Caris Group. For 30 years. What they did was help uninsured patients negotiate hospital bills. So they're really good at getting a good price. And so what they do is actually provide catastrophic coverage. You really only use it when you have an unpredictable catastrophic event. Everything else, you just pay cash, and it's so much better. I get a better deal on healthcare pricing than Fortune 50 health insurers because I want to.
I think that's really interesting. So let's pull this back to an organizational level, right?
Yeah.
So
just to recap for a second, Anthony, and then I'll get back to you, which is like, okay, so here's what we know. We know to recruit great talent, and we need to offer some sort of benefits. We know that's table stakes, particularly as you scale up. Earlier stages, we have other options in front of us, including as a founder. I think it's wild. I've never heard of this, but it seems like it's a great option. And then number two is that we know that at least on one side of the business, if we work with brokers, there's at least 25% waste within the system. So those two things. So now we're sitting in a place like, okay, great. As founders, how do we think about this? Anthony, go ahead.
Well, so I want to bubble it up to an organizational level. So a lot of organizations will switch to a self-insure, which is basically a self-pay model, right? Where they take out a policy for their employees on catastrophic and then just self-insure for this exact reason, because it's so much less expensive. I mean, if you think about it, health insurance for a family is about $2,000 a month. Ask yourself, do you really, if you were to walk in and pay cash for everything, it'd be hard to spend $2,000 a month on medical care.
So I'm going to be I'll be the argument factor here. You guys are scaring the hell out of me. I don't want to deal with this. I'm an ostrich. I want to offload this. I want to offload this piece of my brain. I want to have a thing in the back of my pocket that says this. So let's assume the fact that some of our employees don't want to go this route, and we do need to provide them some sort of a health insurance piece, right?
Yeah.
How do we as founders start thinking through this problem? And now we've got self-insurance as one of those options available for us. But how do we think about what's going to be best for us in our organization?
Well, this is exactly. So let's use another industry as an example. Like, okay, I'm a founder. I don't want to have to keep up with changing U.S. tax policy each year. Right. I don't want to I don't want it taking up any of my
analogy, right? Like, it's not my thing. Like, that's why I hire an accountant.
I hire an accountant, and the accountant works for me, right? Their job is to protect and defend me from myself and from the IRS. Yeah. That's their job. The situation in healthcare is unique because, like you said, Chris, you don't want to think about any of this healthcare stuff. It's not your wheelhouse. You just don't know. So most companies, 81% of businesses, use a broker, thinking that broker has the same relationship as their CPA.
Right.
But in reality, that's not how the money works. Okay. Brokers are essentially, and I'm talking about legacy brokerage firms. I'm talking about top 20 brokerage firms. They are essentially double agents, meaning that they're getting paid by you and they're getting paid by supply side vendors. Okay.
Great business if you can do it, right? You're hustling on both sides of the transaction.
Exactly. And the problem is that.
But are they happy?
I mean, sure they have a boat.
I don't know. I mean, go talk to them when they're on their boats, but they are. I don't know. But the problem is that it's oftentimes, even though it's required starting in 2022, all compensation is supposed to be disclosed under federal law. Many employers, they're still not getting the proper disclosure forms. And so they don't know that they're getting oftentimes biased advice. And this costs them so much money because you end up purchasing and investing in the wrong things. That's a huge mistake. So, and that's why I have a whole chapter dedicated to back end revenue streams that most employers have no idea is happening, right? New business bonuses, retention bonuses. Listen, when I worked on the carrier side of the business for a large insurer, brokers were my customers. And towards the tail end of my tenure at that carrier, part of my job, I was actually managing our largest broker distribution partner. And part of my job was creating the actual bonus incentives for them. So I was literally flying our top broker around the world on luxury vacations. That was part of my job. And we didn't do that out of the goodness of our heart. We did it because we wanted that broker recommending our products over our competitors. That's why we did it.
It's such a crazy, like, it makes perfect sense. But again, you're exposing something that, even though you're kind to call us business minded, I had no idea. I had no idea that this was a problem. Okay, so let's get.
So what's the answer? So so instead of hiring a broker.
So let's get tactical for a second. So
yeah.
I'll tell you my experience, Donovan, and Anthony, I'll ask you the same, which is last time I started to shop for health insurance for my people, I Googled it. I went out there, went through my payroll service. They had something to offer. Yeah. And the first couple of times, it just felt scary. And I think a couple of people said, sorry, we won't insure you. You don't fit our model. And so I think that maybe the first person that said yes was the one that I was like, oh, great. Somebody can do this, right? Anthony, is that kind of, how did you do it? Probably more.
Yeah, the same way. And then I found this thing that, and I know Donovan has some experience with these, but I found this thing called a PEO. And PEOs are essentially, so the problem with brokers, in my experience, is they treat your company as like, you have 10 employees. We're going to go get you the 10 employee rate. And what a PEO is basically, think of it as a co-op of businesses where all of your employees are, all of the business's employees are considered employees of the PEO when it comes for benefits. And so they get Fortune 100 benefit pricing and benefits. And so the PEO is what really kind of saved the business for quite a while, because we were able to offer really great benefits at a very affordable rate to the company and to the employees.
You guys are old enough to remember the VA commercials. Like, I could have had a VA. Like, I'm like, I had no idea this stuff existed. Like,
yeah.
I probably paid a fortune. Okay. So Donovan, you've got my story. I just was the first person that said yes. I'm like, here's money, go do it. You've got Anthony, who actually found something else. What are my options? How should I think about this, Donovan? How should I start to look at finding the right fit for my company?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many ways to skin this cat. First of all, I mean, how do you know even to offer benefits, right? I mean, we're kind of walking through this mental exercise. If you've got founders Googling, I've seen executives at large businesses Googling this stuff because they're not sure they're getting unbiased advice from their broker. They don't know what they don't know. They're literally Googling about stuff. It's just a sad state of affairs. And so the first step in healthcare transformation that I lay out in my book is getting unbiased advice, right? If you're not getting unbiased advice, then you're going to get taken advantage of. Everyone who's talking to you is trying to sell you a product, right? And oftentimes the best financial decision is to not buy anything. Okay, so sometimes the PEOs are great. I mean, for a certain stage of company, PEOs are fantastic. Now, their pitch about getting Fortune 500 benefits as a 10-life group is BS most of the time, but it's a very effective sales pitch, and a lot of people buy it. And you're right, Anthony, they can buy your business, right? They've got so many other revenue streams for different fees, for different services. They can buy your business. I mean, they write their own rates, right? So if they want to compete on benefits, they can absolutely compete on benefits. Now, is that sustainable? No. After a couple of years, we see that a lot of businesses, wow, the benefits cost came back to reality. And And so it becomes, it's just part of the maturity of a business, right? So you're early stage and, you get up to 30 employees and you're like, wait, maybe I'm better off on my own. And then you exit to PEO or 50 employees. And that's just natural. But yes, I agree. For a lot of businesses who are, VC backed, they've got a little extra cash flow. And yes, it does allow the founders to focus on their core competency, which is exactly what they should be focused on. So I think PEOs can be a fantastic solution. It's certainly not the end all be all, but in certain situations, it absolutely makes sense. Now, let's talk about some of the fundamentals, though, of why, by the way, PEOs use brokers too. Okay. So you're not getting, when you use a PEO, you're not getting around the broker. They use PEOs, they use brokers as well. And they all use the same carriers. And when we talk about, there's a great saying by a colleague of mine by the name of David Contorno, who says, if you want to pay less for healthcare, you got to pay less for healthcare. And what he means by that is you have to understand the supply chain. Okay, what is actually driving your rate? Okay, as executives, you tend to think about healthcare as a single line item expense. In reality, it's thousands of line item expenses that add up to that single line item expense. So what do I mean by paying less for healthcare? How much does your organization actually pay for hospitalizations, surgeries, labs, imaging, and drugs? What are the unit prices of those things? I just told you a story about how healthcare unit prices vary by over 1,100% in Central Florida, right? That you've got people who are spending $400 on MRIs, or you've got people that are spending $4,000 or more on MRIs. So, on getting visibility, the first thing you got to do as an organization, if you're gonna be a company that's going to be around for a while, you're not just trying to flip your company every couple of years. You got to put yourself in a position where you can actually see your supply chain, and then once you can see your supply chain, then you can actually manage it, and you can take advantage of those price discrepancies in your region. Okay, so that's a really big opportunity. But just going back to the PEO piece, for the most part, they all use, even if they're self-insured, like any company that's self-insured, they typically have several sins that they make. Okay, they use PPO networks, which is basically tells you how much you're actually paying for those services, right? For the hospitalization, surgeries, labs, and imaging. They use the big three PBMs, pharmacy benefit managers. And if you're using those kinds of vendors, you are absolutely overpaying for services. You're absolutely leaving money on the table, and it's not sustainable because you got to understand the financial incentives of those vendors and what their business model is.
But so I'm hearing two things, and this is where I just want to challenge you because again, I'm an ostrich. I want to build my business. I don't want to know what healthcare costs are. I don't want to understand. I've got enough things to do that there's no way that I'm going to sit around and try to do that. So I understand it. I understand what you're saying, which is you got to get to the root cause here.
Yeah.
But realistically, I'm not going to do that. I'm just not.
100%.
So back to the original question, how do I think about this? Do I go directly to insurance companies? Do I find, you said unbiased advice. Awesome. Where do I find unbiased advice?
Yeah, great question.
Way to set Donovan up there, Chris. That's that is the softest. That's the question he hopes he's asked.
There's a reason that securing unbiased advice is the first step in healthcare transformation because it's so critical. If you get that wrong, you're never going to get to the second step. Okay, so there's two ways you can get unbiased advice. So the first way, you can go to the Validation Institute's website. They have a list of management consulting firms who specialize in healthcare financing and procurement, and they actually serve as a fiduciary to you in their contract. They don't accept backdoor money from insurance companies, from pharmacy benefit managers, etc. They serve as a fiduciary to you. That is a legal term. That means they have to act in your best interest. And if there's a conflict of interest with any revenue stream between vendors, they have to disclose that to you. Okay, so that's the first way. So if you have under 1,000 employees or so, the best way to do that is by partnering with one of those firms. I started one in 2018 after working on the carrier side of the business, after working on the brokerage side of the business and seeing how screwed up things were, I said, this is completely unsustainable. It's not the role that businesses need us to play. They need us to defend them from insurance companies and the medical industrial complex, not profit from it. Okay.
I think that's amazing. But also what I'm hearing in the back of my head is you're going to come in as a startup and charge me way more than I can afford to find this. Like, will they serve?
All right, Chris, hold on one second. Yeah. Two things. If you're a startup, like you're basically helping your employees find you're giving them bonuses to find their individual, their own individual options likely. Secondly, you've said this a couple of times. I'm going to challenge you on your challenge and say, if the number 2 expense in your business isn't top of mind for you to get it right, then you're thinking about your business wrong. Like this is.
I'm going to challenge you on your challenge of my challenge.
You can't triple stamp a double stamp. You can't triple stamp a double stamp.
You can't triple stamp a double stamp. I don't even know women with challenges there are at this point. I fully get it, but again, this is the same. I love the analogy of being like, look, taxes is a huge expense for me.
Yeah.
I don't know enough about taxes. I want to hire a professional to go do this. I had no idea that if I go hire somebody to do it, I'd be very, very specific of their credentials. And so get it. Yeah. I understand, Anthony. It's like, okay, early on, it's very likely the best bet for us as founders is to do some sort of a subsidized individual plan based on the needs of that employee. But now we're at 10, 50, maybe, I don't know, what's the number, Donovan? When should we call you? 15 employees? 30?
Well, all of these firms are different, okay? So some of the firms on that list at the Validation Institute's website, they do specialize with small groups. And so some of them will do a feasibility study as a first step to see, like, does it even make sense to invest in this area at all? And I think that's hugely important. I mean, I've done this, some pro bono work like that, where companies were thinking about offering benefits, and I saved them a ton of money just by saying, don't do it. Don't buy anything. Give them guidance. Give your employees guidance on what their options are. So you're not just leaving them out to dry. But for your industry, for that company's specific industry and needs, et cetera, it just didn't make sense. They were about to drop a ton of money and get virtually no return for that. So yes, some of these firms do work with small businesses. My firm, our new lowest threshold is 200 employees, but they're all different. So just find out one that works with you.
Anthony, I want to go over to you, and then we're going to get to speed around Donovan. We do have this as an option, but it doesn't feel like something that's intuitive. It's not something I understood. Anthony, how did you handle individual helping your employees pay for their own health insurance?
So I really kind of jumped right into offering health insurance right away. That was not a great business decision, but it was I can wake up and look at myself in the mirror decision. I wanted to offer that as just I thought it was the right thing to do. So I did it really early on. It was one of my critical components as we started, growing from 2 to 20.
Mm-hmm.
Before we jump into the speed round, I did want to ask Donovan, we've spent appropriately most of our time talking about healthcare, but what are some of the other benefits that founders should be thinking about beyond healthcare, in order to really get the bang for the buck out of insurance, out of benefits?
I was kind of laughing with our team this morning because this topic came up. There are some what used to be called fringe benefits that people really value. And so one of the ones that people really value that isn't all of that expenses and the inflation rate is typically not that bad on it is dental insurance. I don't know why. But some people love dental insurance. A lot of people do. And so that's a
look at those choppers, Anthony. Clearly you've had dental insurance.
I've had lots of work done.
Anthony's best feature.
And I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah. His teeth are outstanding. Well done.
That looks like a new Costa Rican grill right there.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's one. there, some population, and every population is kind of different what they value. Some of them love pet insurance, right? I mean, so it's what people like. Everyone's got their own standard of value, and you just don't know until you ask them. In fact, we just came out with a new survey tool to make that process really easy to understand, so that employers can easily understand what their employees actually value. We call it Employee Benefits Voice. You can buy it on our website for $99. And so it's just an easy way to really understand, okay, what do our employees actually want? Before we go spend millions of dollars on something, let's find out if they actually want it. So
talk to your
employees. I think that's a great idea.
Fascinating idea. It's a fascinating idea. Yeah, I did the same thing. And what it came back to, what my employees really wanted was public transport passes for the bus. Like it was more than parking spaces. They want public transport. And so I think absolutely talking to your employees. Chris, why don't you jump us into the speed round?
Well, we're going to go to the speed round, but it's funny. The last time I did that for my employees, they just said they'd prefer to not work with me. So anyway, that was the response. It was great. All right. Are you ready for the speed round, Donovan? All right, Donovan, I'm going to come up with a couple questions. They're probably terrible. They might be good. We don't know. Just answer the first thing pops in your mind, or just call Anthony Dunn. Any of those are completely acceptable on the way. Or maybe just,
and standard answers. Yes.
Yeah, compliment his teeth. What percentage of your broker's income comes from hidden carrier kickbacks?
Oh my God, that's a fantastic question. So if we're talking top 20 legacy brokerage firms, it's estimated that 20 to 30% of their employee benefits revenue is in the form of, they have a great euphemism for this. They call it market-derived income.
Market-derived income. That is a great euphemism. Employees want cheap premiums or actual coverage when they're sick. Which one of those?
Oh, they want both. They want everything.
Of course they do. Broker promises transparency. Demand to see every compensation source, or just trust them to do the right thing?
Under federal law, you have to get a 408 disclosure form that lists all forms of what they call direct compensation and indirect market-derived income.
That's fantastic. Which kills retention faster, higher deductibles or surprise medical expenses, bankruptcy type things?
Wow. That's a tough one. I think, balance billing happens in all different funding mechanisms. I would say high deductibles because you're, in many cases, here's a quick stat for you. This is shocking. Medical bills are the number one reason for bankruptcy in the United States. But here's the thing: about 75% of the people who file because of medical bills have health insurance.
Right.
So be careful when you start leaning on those high deductible plans.
It's fairly crazy. All right, your broker brings, it says donuts, but I'm going to say beer to the meeting, maybe a bottle. Should you?
Well, hell, Rolex watches.
Yeah, maybe exactly. Should you be worried about this conversation? I think is the question.
No, and I don't want to, my critique is of the system. It's not of brokers themselves. There are thousands of really hardworking, well-meaning brokers out there in this country. And the fact is that American businesses really need them. They need expertise in this area. There are so many compliance things to worry about, implementation, management of these services. You actually really need good procurement. You need brokers, but you need them to work with you. You need them to be aligned with you. That's why I'm doing a series of workshops next year to help brokers transition to the fiduciary-based model so that they can actually meet the needs of U.S. employers that actually need them.
I'll give you the red flag, Chris. If they're wearing Ferragamo shoes, have their sweater pulled over their shoulders, and they're talking about the jet that they're co-opting with their buddy.
Yeah, I was going to say, they have to be like, hey, sorry, I got to cut this meeting short. I got to take the.
That's a real story, by the way. That has actually happened to me.
That is pretty funny. Deep dive resources, a couple: American Sickness, how healthcare became big business and how you can take it back. Total Benefits, you mentioned this place, which is the Validation Institute's Benefit Transparency. That's at validationinstitute.com. But we're going to do none of those things, Donovan. We're going to go buy your book, and then we're just going to call you. Could you give us your cell phone number? We're just going to call you personally. We don't
I
need
can't do that, but you can certainly contact us and reach out at donovanpyle.com or go to fixinghealthcare.com and do this. Download a free executive summary of my book and give it to your boss. How about that?
I'm going to give it to you, Anthony. And yeah, I mean, I don't know why you wouldn't just let me text you right now, Donovan. I think it would be fine. But
So rude. So rude.
So incredible. Donovan, thank you. Like, I kind of have my mind blown and I'm kind of angry. Like, I'm kind of going to talk because of what's happening.
News quiz.
Yeah.
American businesses have the power to solve a lot of these problems right now. They've never had the clarity that they need to take back control and lead the way. So that's why I wrote the book. And listen, we don't need any action from DC to solve a lot of these problems. We can take action right now and get things done.
I think that's a pretty good place to leave it. Thank you again, Donovan. Appreciate you. Thank you for joining us. Anthony, what do we have coming up? Get us out of here.
Yeah. So thank you again, Donovan. This was good as I thought it was going to be. For everybody listening, thank you all so much for tuning in. Please be sure to visit us at howtofounder.com, where you can connect with us on LinkedIn and subscribe to our YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify channels, and where you can leave us a great review for this amazing podcast episode. As always, we think you are the pioneers of economic prosperity. And Chris and I and Stephanie, and I assume Donovan, we're just really grateful to be here along the way with you. Thank you, everybody. Take care. Bye.
Good seeing you all.